Okay. Okay, well, we actually have started the call a little bit later than we wanted to anyway, so we're going to go ahead and hop into it. For those of you who are in for the web portion, you're going to see the slides real time. I will warn everybody for the Facebook Live, other than the fact that the sound is going to have a little challenge, we will find a way to dub it over, like we did the last call. Having the slides up, it's going to be about 20 seconds or so delay, as we go into it. So let's talk about the purpose development call and what the purpose of this call really is. And in thinking about it, the harmonious relationship between faith and business right now is not something that is celebrated near as much as it should be. We have recognized that faith is becoming increasingly more of a liability than it is an asset, at least as far as how the world views it, and that has had us, really separate our lives. We have one life on a Sunday, and then pretty much for most business owners and most people in general, we have another life entirely on the other 6 days of the week. So the Purpose Development Call is all about supporting people with how to create that harmonious relationship. What does it take in order to do something like that? And what I have tonight with me is I have a very special guest host, Dr. Tom Owens. And so I'm going to have Dr. Tom, which actually that was my OB, interestingly enough. Did you know? It's Dr. Tom. No. Not mine. I mean, for the kids. But I'm going to have Tom go ahead and open us up in prayer. We do actually have a traditional prayer that we use for this call, but there's some things. You want to do the traditional one? I want to pray for your family too. No?
No, that's fine.
All right. So Tom, could you go ahead and say out our prayer to start our call, please?
Oh, divine providence, we ask not for more riches, but for more wisdom with which to make wiser use of those riches that you gave us at birth, consisting in the power to control our own mind and our own spirit to whatever purpose you have for our lives. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. So, moving into our call here.
That's the reason why we don't put that on speaker.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and really introduce Dr. Tom to all you guys. The reason why he is my guest co-host for the PDC call tonight, and will probably be a guest host somewhat frequently. I mean, he lives a little far from our office here, but we actually have very blessed with him being willing to take the trip from Virginia Beach up to Williamsburg. But he is the owner of Strategic Influence Alternatives, and I'll go ahead and allow you to hear from him a little bit about what some of this history and some of the things that he does that's put him in a position to be on the call.
Okay. So, Ed, is that feedback better if we do it this way? Better. Okay. We're still working through a couple of the technical issues here, but I think we've got it at least manageable. When I first retired from the Army after 20 years as a lieutenant colonel, I went into business with some friends of mine, and we started a company called Strategic Influence Alternatives, and it was designed to be a defense contracting company that provided very specialized personnel back to the military, based on a very specialized skill set with psychological operations, information operations, and intelligence analysts. We did that for several years, and then Congress stopped passing budgets, and they stopped letting new contracts, and we kind of had all of our eggs in that basket, and we kind of dried up and blew away. So we put SIA on the shelf. Went and did some other things, and then I started on this journey of becoming a doctor in strategic influence and strategic leadership specifically. And so one day I was trying to explain to somebody what it was I was doing, and I said, I'm doing strategic leadership, and I want to do it differently than the rest of the world's doing it. I want to do it to a biblical standard, not to a worldly standard. and sort of a alternative to what the world thinks good looks like. And it just kind of clicked in my head. It's like, well, wait a second, you've already got a company that's on the shelf that's called Strategic Influence Alternatives. And so I talked to my business partner, we dusted it off, pulled it back off the shelf, and we repurposed it as a leadership development organization geared specifically toward developing Christian business leaders. When somebody asked me why Strategic Influence Alternatives, I told them because deliberate, purposeful leadership to God's standard doesn't fit on a card as well.
Absolutely. And then, speaking of, combining business and Christianity, I mean, you are the president of the Christian Business Coalition now in Hampton Roads. How long have you been involved in the organization as a whole? I mean, this is your 5th year, right?
Yep, that's correct. We've been doing this for 5 years. I'm one of the original founders of the organization, along with another member of the call here, Ed Carr. He and I have been shepherding this organization in various capacities now for 5 years. And we both took over as leadership positions, officers in the company in the about 1.5 years ago, coming up on 2 years ago now. And so we're trying to move that organization in the right direction for what it is we feel like God is calling us to do, and that is to develop Christian business leaders to stop looking at their faith as a liability and start looking at it as the asset that it is. I read an interesting book recently by Dr. Jim Harris called Our Unfair Advantage, and he's talking about that when we engage the Holy Spirit into our business, and into what we're trying to do, that we get that we do have an unfair advantage, and we're just not leveraging it properly.
And actually, we're going to talk about a little bit about that later. I mean, really, if you look at the root of all the best business practices, when it comes to delivering experience, when it comes to developing leaders, when it comes to, just stewardship in your business, they all are easily rooted in, in the gospel. And a lot of the leaders, your John Maxwell's and, even your Edward, let me help me out, Demings. Edward Demings was a Christian. It's interesting. He used the language that you want to be an efficient Christian. Very him, right? But, it all really comes from people who are deeply rooted in their faith. And so I'll also share a little bit about me. My name is Frederick Coach West. I am the Look Faith First founder. I mean, we're an organization that supports businesses in that facilitation to achieve excellence, but to do so with that harmonious relationship between faith and business. I've been a coaching consultant for 17 years. Have my coaching certification from the International Coaching Academy in Melbourne, Australia. And I am actually a graduate of the Anthony Robbins Advanced Skills Training for Coaches. But I really think what gave me the best opportunity to support businesses the way that I do is that I come from an entrepreneurial family. When I was 5, 6, 7 years old, my parents owned several different businesses. I had a great appreciation for small businesses. I saw the struggles they went through because I lived them. And I'll tell you, as a child in a family like that, you really end up learning a lot because some Christmases were great and some weren't. You just, it's the feast of famine that your parents dealt with. And so my appreciation for what small businesses go through just was perpetual. It just kept growing and growing and growing to the point where I found myself wanting to do this for a lifetime. So what's exciting about what we're doing tonight is, this first call is an introduction to what we hope will be a series of calls throughout the year to change the way that people look at faith in their business. And the root of it comes from the 7 cultural mountains. So for those of you who are not familiar with the 7 cultural mountains, we did talk about this a little bit on Thursday when we did the purpose development call for home. But the 7 cultural mountains are the 7 influencers of society. This is where we get our values and our morals, and it drives our behaviors. And in addition to home, a big driver is business. And so we decided to do this call on the home call because we want society to look at the faith as an asset once more, the way that it should be, and really get the fulfillment from it. There's really nothing like being fully engaged with your faith and fully engaged with your business at the same time because of the impact that you make, because of the greatness that you see come from it, and the the lack of incongruency that you end up dealing with. So, I can't do that. All right. So, in addition, one thing that we were really excited about working on was path. So, we had to find a way to format this call that it was going to have a great impact. And as you know, when you talk about business, anybody that's in business, you can go pretty much everywhere with it. And you open up a trunk that really never has a bottom. And so we had to find a way to kind of chunk this call and say, okay, how are we going to impact Christian business owners? And the acronym that Tom and I had come up with a little while ago was PATH. And so, Tom, you want to talk about PATH a little bit and how we can end up coming up with it?
Sure. We were looking actually at a biblical scripture about taking the word of the Lord and tying it around our necks, and that it be a light for our feet. And so in that verse, we found some other similar verses, and this idea of having a light for your path was kept coming up over and over and over again. Of course, being the Army guy that I am, I try to turn everything into an acronym. And so we said, okay, what would be PATH? What would that actually stand for? And Coach and I are both very deliberate and purposeful, as I said earlier. And so the first P was easy. The purpose part of the PATH was real easy for us to lock in and say, okay, so what's the rest of it stand for? And the next piece that we came up with was, turned out to be our talents. We were looking at, okay, God's equipped each of us to do certain things to accomplish that purpose, and they manifest in our skills, abilities, experiences, and all that stuff. We encapsulated all that into the T and for talent. And we said, okay, a lot of people have a purpose and a lot of people have talent they've been given, but they don't do anything with it. So we determined that there needs to be a connecting piece to those two, and that's the A, and that's that bias for action. We've got to be action-oriented. We've got to be focused on not only recognizing our purpose, but have a bias for action so that we can leverage and align those talents toward achieving that purpose. And when we do that, we came up with, okay, there's a harmonious relationship now between all aspects of your life, specifically your faith and your business. We don't want people to act one way on Sunday and another way on Monday. We wanted it all to be integrated, and so that harmonious relationship between those kind of became the H, and we locked it all in and said, there we go, we've got our acronym.
And so for us going forward, when we end up doing these calls, every topic that we come around is going to be centered on one of those things. It's either going to be about how to get more purpose out of your business and how to feel more purposeful when you do your business. It's going to be about how to take action. Because we are creatures of action. I mean, God does not equip us and give all of these talents and give us all these abilities and everything just to hold them for ourselves. We're supposed to use those talents with the parable of the talents in consideration for that, right?
Absolutely.
And then it works into talents. I mean, it's unfortunate, but we live in a world today that I think does a very poor job of recognizing somebody's talents. They want us to conform to society rather than expand the gifts that we were given. And so we're going to talk about how we can extract those talents, how we can use those talents for the benefit of the world, and then again that harmony. You should be confident and comfortable and even convicted to be the same person every day. Not one person on Sunday, or one person when you're doing ministry, and another person in your business life. So the PDC business call is going to be on the third Tuesday, which that is what today is, the 17th, and we are going to go from 8 to 9:30. We have two halves to this call. The first half is kind of a wisdom from an expert, and so for this first call, we wanted to do just an introduction, tell you about who we were, tell you what the intention of the call was. But then the second half of the call, I'd like to warn everybody now, is going to be a coaching moment. Really, it's going to be a moment to get some insight from you guys to see what type of challenges you are having and allow, at least myself, explore those challenges with you and help you through those challenges so that you're able to not only better your life, but better the life of the other people on the call. I will tell you that the best feedback that we got from the call that we did last week was the second portion of the call. I mean, people like insight, and they like the introduction, and they like to know a little bit about where we come from, but it was when we had a person share that had the biggest impact. Tom?
And I also wanted to thank Ed for opening it up to us a little bit last week and sharing, because it does require a certain amount of vulnerability to be coached. And we recognize, and I just wanted to affirm that Ed, he kind of took one for the team, if you will, by opening himself up and being vulnerable and allowing that coaching moment to happen, and allowed those other people to get something out of his journey and the feedback that he was getting. And it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of willingness to be vulnerable. And we just, again, want to thank Ed for that. And so this week, it's somebody else's turn. We don't want to beat up on Ed this time. We want to let somebody else come up for that. So just wanted to make sure that we acknowledged him in that way.
And Tom, it's going to be you, man. All right. So really, again, the focus of these calls going forward, and the focus of this call tonight is faith is an asset, and your business should be a part of your ministry. So let's talk about faith as an asset. And we kind of hinted this earlier, but many of the best practices that are in business come from faith. Leadership, it doesn't take long for people to mention John Maxwell as one of the, the thought leaders when it comes to leadership, and all the people who have kind of sprung off of him up to that point. When it comes to sales, a lot of people don't recognize this or realize this, but Zig Ziglar, he was writing devotionals. I mean, God was a big part of who he was. And, it was very interesting to see that they did not recognize as much. We didn't recognize as much the impact that Zig had until really after his death. That's when a lot of these other things started coming out.
Absolutely.
Client experience. I'll go ahead and let you speak on some of it.
Well, I've recently, in my own experience, and we'll get into this later in the coaching part probably, is that there's a disconnect. Some people think that the customer's always right, and that they have to do everything they can to bend over backwards for their clients, which is great. The challenge is there's somebody else in that equation in most instances, and that's your employees. And in order to create the best client experience, I don't know about his faith, but Sir Richard Branson has been quoted as saying that take care of your people and your people will take care of your clients. Mm-hmm. And so I like his emphasis on taking care of your people. We've had an opportunity with me and my business partner, we've had an opportunity to try to help a couple of other of our clients, and one of them just has this unhealthy mindset regarding his employees. And we keep asking ourselves, why in the world would anybody want to work for this guy when his default position is, I have to defend my clients from my employees. Like his employees are going to misrepresent him in some way or take advantage of his clients in some way, and it's disheartening when you see somebody treat another person who's supposed to be on their team, who their entire livelihood is built around that individual doing their job well. And so when you're dealing with a client experience, I think it's very important for us to not forget all of the people that are involved in that equation. And from a biblical perspective, treating people like we want to be treated and helping our employees understand how to model those standards of excellence that we want to kind of shine on the light of Christ on the rest of the world is an important aspect of that client experience and some of those best practices that come from the Bible.
Well, and then we can also talk about environment, and really you touched on that. When it comes to the environment, when it comes to how you treat your people, when it comes to what type of role you have in their lives. I mean, are you their employer or are you their mentor? I mean, are you trying to pay them just enough to stick around and have them make just enough to not quit, or are you trying to impact their lives, and do you want them to truly impact your business? And so, when you get deeper into that, it leads into the next part of faith as an asset, which is it's all about purpose and fulfillment. One of my favorite examples as far as a company that has done a great job in that integration, that harmony, is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has done an exceptional job. I mean, I don't know, I don't know if I've ever had like a truly negative experience there. But anything that is remotely negative, I mean, they forgot a fry on a tray. And listen, I'm in business. I know, I'm ordering for 12 people, okay? You forgot a French fry. I understand. I'm ordering for 12, because I have 10 kids and it's me and my wife. And so, I don't know. Even then they fixed it. They give you a free sandwich, or they give you something else to say, hey, you know what? No, come back and come see us. And it's just an amazing how they see so much purpose and so much fulfillment in what they do every day.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I like about, you guys can't see it, but our cameraman just held up my drink. I had dinner tonight at Chick-fil-A, so he was holding my cup up doing the Vanna White as an example of what we're talking about. The other thing that truly makes Chick-fil-A unique, and not to get off on this to be the Chick-fil-A hour or anything, but they're actually a very innovative company as well. A lot of the things that they've been doing, they're kind of leading the industry. This Mom's Valet or curbside service, the ability to go onto an app and tell them what you want before you get there, and tell them I'm going to be outside, I'm in the blue truck. And after you do this 2 or 3 times, they start asking you, are you still in the blue truck? Absolutely. And so they're running out to you to give you your food still warm, and you're bypassing the lines. They're very innovative. We were talking about the cups.
Yeah.
They put these little plastic table things on the table instead of giving you a number. A lot of restaurants, if your order's going to take a while, especially
Like Hardee's. I mean, okay, sorry, am I going to get in trouble for that? I might get in trouble for that. All right, go ahead.
But Coach has a good point. When he shows up with 12, he's got a big order. They usually can't fulfill that all at once. So most places will give you a number and say, here, put this on your table, we'll come find you. Well, Chick-fil-A doesn't do that. They give you a color-coded cone that, again, is part of that client experience. It's identifying their customers not as a number, but as a person with a preference and with a like. And it's just their business practices and how they do the purpose and fulfillment piece of what it is they do is a good model for the rest of us when we start to look at ways to interact with our clients, especially if we're doing some sort of retail or service industry specifically.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, my daughter ended up working there last year. Again, it's not just the Chick-fil-A hour, but they are a great example of what we're talking about. God was throughout the entire training manual. It was all about truly having a compassion and having a love for your client. And they don't ask to serve out of slavery. They ask to serve out of love and respect and mutual acknowledgement of people. And it just perpetuates itself all over the organization itself. And so then that really kind of lends us into the next part of this call, which is using your business as your ministry. I mean, how is it, right now, again, people are trying to separate business and their faith. There are concerns about scarcity, there are concerns about profitability, there's concerns about, wealth, because, money is the root of all evil, which is one of the most misquoted scriptures that has come around, and it to me is one of the great lies about what we're supposed to do. Let's talk about it. I mean, how are ways that your business can actually serve as your ministry?
Well, I like to point out that this is God's economy, and we like to look at it as if somehow we're in control of some aspect of it, and we're not. God's in control of all of it, but we do have our part to play. And one of the things that we talked about recently is that the 3 main ways that you can impact on the marketplace as a business leader is what you do with your money. Wealth accumulation is biblical, and so having a plan for what you're going to do with that to further the kingdom is a good thing. Your influence, what it is when you reach a certain status in society as a business, you're successful, people start to notice. So what are you doing with that influence? Are you trying to leverage it, align it? Are you ignoring it? Are you putting it to the side and hoping that nobody notices. There's lots of different things that we do with our influence. I think the biggest disadvantage is we don't recognize when we do have influence. And then the third piece is our example. I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about Chick-fil-A, but they serve as a great example of what it means to, what it looks like to treat your business as a ministry. I love it when we exit my church. There's a sign right over the door that says your mission field, right next to the exit sign. So everybody is clear when they walk out the door that no matter what God has called us to do, that our mission field is out there, not necessarily inside the four walls of the physical church, of the building. Too many people get focused and fixated, and that's the only place God calls people to do anything is, be a minister in the church or be a Sunday school teacher in the church. That's, yes, he does call people to that, but he also calls the rest of us to do other things too, and that is to open up businesses and to be entrepreneurs and to lead organizations. Even if you're a junior or mid-grade level leader, got to know God put you there as well. So don't shy away from what it is you do with your money, what it is you do with your influence, and what it is you do with your example, as it pertains to God's economy and your role as a business person in ministry.
And again, absolutely. I mean, and that's where we saw the power coming from, because a lot of people, when they think of that ministry, the wealth one's easy. They think of the charities they can invest in. There's the YMCA, and I'm not going to take anything away from the YMCA or Catholic Charities or any of these other ones, but we could do so much more with our wealth. And that's really the reason why Look Faith First was named what it was. I mean, we actually, how we invest in other Christian businesses, the buying power that we have. You got the bracelet, love it. The thing is every dollar that we spend is given to somebody else that is going to do something with it. And if we're called as Christians to do the right thing with those dollars, every time that dollar comes in our hand, we're called to be stewards of it, because that's what we're called to be, is stewards of everything we're given, every gift, whether that's a talent or a dollar. If we're called to be stewards of that, then by investing that dollar into Christian business that has that hyper-purposefulness that we talked about before, I mean, that dollar is going to go to the right place. And Lord knows, I've seen plenty of people, especially entrepreneurs, who don't do the right things with their dollars. And so it actually matters. When it comes to that influence, I look at what we could do politically, and I look at what we could do as far as how we serve the community and how we help each other. And again, that lends right into being the example. It's unfortunate, but until the right person gets involved in something, too many other people ignore it. And then to watch, somebody that's in need or an organization that is trying to do something profound or, whatever it is, to watch organizations that truly need help not get what they need is painful to me. Because I know plenty of organizations, and I'm sure you do too, plenty of organizations that want to do great things out there, but that are lacking the funding and lacking that are lacking that recognition they need in order to make the impact that they're making. And so, as a Christian business, with that influence we gain and that example we bring notice to some of these organizations so they make that impact.
Another point I want to make here too is I recently read, it was a book about leadership, but they were talking about that our founding fathers really knew what they do about it. They really knew what they were doing, and they really knew what they were about in how they designed the country and how they designed the Constitution, all this stuff. But the author was making a point that out of the 2.8 million people that were living in the United States during that time period, that we actually produced 6 of the most influential, prolific statesmen, and he named the 6 founding fathers that had the most impact. And his comment was that when you fast forward to today to 330 million, that as a percentage, we should have a much larger number of true statesmen, true influential biblical leaders that are engaged in in public life, and they're not. And it's a little disheartening in one sense to know that there are people who just don't want to play in that arena anymore because of what it has become. But I think one of the things we've got to get in our head is that when we signed up, when we said, yes, I believe I'm a Christian, you signed a contract to get engaged in the fight. You're a soldier now. You're a warrior. And this idea that, Christians are supposed to sit in the corner and color and not cause trouble and once I'm saved, that's my ticket to heaven and I don't have to do anything else. That's not biblical. Lots of references in Scripture to we're supposed to fight and we're supposed to be engaged and we're supposed to make a difference and we're supposed to advance the kingdom and we're supposed to actually, Peter tells us we're supposed to hasten the second coming by doing the things that Christ commanded us to do, make disciples of all nations. So how is it you're taking what you've been called to do as a business leader and applying the Great Commission to it and saying, okay, I'm not necessarily equipped or, gifted to be a missionary in, pick a foreign country, but I can create the largesse out of my gifts and out of my business that I can fund that person who is. And so they can go in and do what they're supposed to do right because they've been well funded by those of us who are doing the right things with our money and with our influence.
Absolutely, absolutely. And really that kind of brings us into, the final part of the instructional part of our call. Again, we're getting ready to get to our coaching part. We're really looking forward to having somebody volunteer. Now, I don't know if Mike knew this, but he raised his hand already. So that to me, Mike, you're my volunteer. And I'm excited to have you, my friend. Mike, are you still with us, Mike? Mike from Miami Beach? Not answering back, but all right. So hopefully Mike ends up catching up with us in a second. But I saw he raised his hand, so he may be our volunteer. But let's go ahead and again just talk about the intention of the call itself. It's about the community. This call is about you guys. This call is a way for these professionals that have a strong biblical foundation in their business to contribute to you for your betterment and for your improvement and for your impact. And not charge you for it. And so, your participation is what's going to drive the value of the call. The more people call in, the more people actually share some of the content we have in here, the more people participate outside the call. That has to do with how you apply to different things here. We hate to think that, we were just talking to, folks who like to listen to some great insight and would like to, be entertained, as it were, but not necessarily apply it. I mean, the greatest way that you honor us is by applying a lot of things that we end up talking about. And finally, it's about your contribution. So as guests, whether you listen or raise a hand, again, Mike, I hope that hand still is up, in about 5 minutes when we start our coaching portion. But how you contribute as guests is a big part of it. Speakers, I mean, we're going to be looking for different contributors to this call constantly. To make sure that we bring the best talent available in the Christian business sphere and have them, just share with you and really, bless you with a lot of their knowledge, a lot of their experience. And then we're for evangelists. Once this call, ends up, other than the technical challenges we had, right? So we want to get past those. But other than the technical challenges, once our call really gets up and running, to a level where we're making that impact, it's up to the community itself to say, you know what, brother, what, sister, I see you're struggling. I see that you have 2 parts of your life. Why don't you come here? This is a place where you can learn to bring both of those parts and make the impact and fulfill the purpose that you really have.
And to add to that, this idea of community, this aspect of it, that I like to break that down into, okay, what is it that we have common unity about that makes us a community? And that common unity is our belief and our faith in Jesus. And if you're putting him first in all that you're trying to do, and you are looking for like-minded individuals in which to not only participate in calls like this with, but to do business with, or to hire as employees, or, whatever. The idea of community is very important for us to continue to expand our circles of influence in the community and reach more and more people. And the purpose of this call is to empower those of you that are in business to say that yes, you can leverage your position as a business leader in the community to advance the kingdom for Christ. And in fact, you're called to. You may not realize it, but you are called to. So as we go through these calls and as we go through these this journey together on this path, we hope to be a light for you on that path. We hope to keep pointing you back to biblical truths and biblical principles that you can use in every aspect of your business and your life in order to be able to continue to advance the banner of Christ in the marketplace.
Absolutely. All right. And that brings us to the portion of the call where we are going to be calling out to you guys. I mean, we have several people on the call tonight. Again, Mike, I didn't mean to scare you off if we did. I noticed you put your hand down. I'm hoping it's not because you're retracting that willingness to participate, but we are calling out to some folks and seeing who would be interested in having us work through something. Again, I coach professionally. There are very few challenges that I've been approached with that I can't offer some value in, and so we're going to take about a 4 or 5 minute break. We're going to restart Facebook Live real quick so that they are able to hopefully be able to hear us when we do this again, and then I will be looking for someone to contribute a challenge or some type of insight where we can support the prosperity of your business. So we will be right back in 5 minutes.
Want me to push finish?